Antariksham Shantihi, Prithvi Shantihi, Apaha Shantihi, Oshadhaya Shantihi, Vanaspataya Shantihi, Vishwedeva Shantihi, Brahma Shantihi, Sarvam Shantihi, Shantireva Shantihi, Sama Shantiredhi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may there be peace in heaven. May there be peace in the sky. May there be peace on earth. May there be peace in the water. May there be peace in the plants. May there be peace in the trees. May there be peace in the gods, in the various worlds. May there be peace in Brahman. May there be peace in all. May there be peace indeed within peace, giving me the peace which grows within me. Om, peace, peace, peace. As the rivers flowing east and west merge in the sea and become one with it, forgetting they were separate rivers, so do all creatures lose their separateness when they merge at last into pure being. There is nothing that does not come from Him. Of everything He is the innermost self. He is the truth. He is the self-supreme. And you are that, Swetaketu. You are that. Chandogya Upanishad. Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good to be here again, surrounded by peace. What a beautiful song. Thank you for the flute. Beautiful. Very elevating. Today we are here and, is it on?
It's on.
Very good. The topic today is the flow of life. So let's talk about the flow first. Life and the goal of life. There is a psychologist, his name is Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. Have you heard of him? He talks about the experience of the flow. And I found this very interesting. He says the highest, most satisfying experiences in people's lives is when they are in flow. In flow, people live so deeply in the moment and feel so utterly in control that their sense of time, place, and even self melt away. You feel autonomous, and at the same time, you are engaged. The highest, most satisfying experience in life is when you are in flow. You live in the moment, you feel utterly in control. Your sense of time, place, and self melt away. Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced the flow? It's beautiful. Why? Well, I think it is because magic happens, we forget ourselves. And there is nothing more satisfying than forgetting ourselves. Technically, flow is defined as an optimal state of consciousness where we feel our best and perform our best. Optimal state of consciousness where we feel our best and perform our best. The ecstasy that we experience when things just flow. When things flow, we experience joy. When things flow, we experience ecstasy. When things flow, we experience peace and tranquility. When things flow, we let go. We let things happen. We forget. We simply are present, experiencing the thing that fulfills us, fills us with joy. And we don't want that to stop. Artists have defined that experience as an ecstatic state where you simply step into an alternative reality when art simply flows. Are there any artists here? You probably know what it is all about. You are in an ecstatic state to such a point that you feel as though you almost don't exist. When creation takes place, you enter into this new reality that is a moment of ecstasy. You enter a different reality. Artists say that this is so intense an experience that it feels almost as if you didn't exist. Now, ecstasy is defined as an overwhelming feeling of great happiness, of joy, excitement, of joyful excitement, perfect happiness, great joy. We call it bliss. It is also defined as a state of perfect happiness where you are oblivious of everything else. When you are really involved in the process of creating something new, you don't have enough attention left to think about anything else, not even to think of the fact that you exist. Have you ever experienced that awe moment? Just enjoy. You forget everything. You simply are there, oblivious of everything. Existence is temporarily suspended. Now, I find this very, very interesting, and I think you should find it interesting too. The ecstasy that we experience, it only takes place when you are oblivious of everything else and almost, and most importantly, when you are oblivious of yourself. When you forget yourself in the experience so much so that you simply are. Don't tell me you don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the overindulgence in sensual pleasures which gives you only an illusion of being in the flow, but actually it wears out the vigor of all the senses of man, drains our energy. I'm not talking about that. Who hasn't, by the gathering of all the power of concentration, mastered some discipline, mastered some skill? What happens? When you are highly challenged and you find yourself at your highest level of skill, then you flow. When you are highly challenged and you find yourself at your highest level of expertise, then you flow. Now, do you think that an artist, an excellent football player, a master in martial arts, as Bruce Lee was, do you think that this is an automatic, a spontaneous process that simply happens just like that? what's required here? I ask you. Training, discipline, mastery. This can happen only to someone who is very well trained and who has developed a specific technique. Whether it's mathematics, music, it takes that long to be able to begin to change something in a way that is better than what was there before. Now, when that happens, in the case of an artist, arts simply flow out. This type of experience is what Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, a Hungarian-American psychologist, has called the flow experience. Up to now, is it clear? Very good. A poet describes it in this form: the same effortless, spontaneous feeling that you get when you enter into this ecstatic state, as if opening a door that floats in the sky. What you are doing becomes worth doing for its own sake. What you are doing becomes worth doing for its own sake. Does it ring the bell for those karma yogis who've been around for a while? You've heard these words from Swami Vedant. Doing for doing's sake. You might be doing things very differently from one to another, but you flow when you experience your passion and talents, something that you really like to do. Call it write poetry, play the piano, play soccer, your field, or be with your best friend, if that provides you that flow. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, the psychologist, says the highest, most satisfying experiences in people's lives is when they are in flow. In flow, people live so deeply in the moment and feel so utterly in control that their sense of time, place, and even self melt away. You feel autonomous, and at the same time, you are engaged. Some people have got the mastery or some certain skills over something and know how to get there. Gymnastics, martial arts, masters, you name them. They know how to get there. Perfect meditators. They just close their eyes and they are right there, connected with God. Now, to enter the flow is also called to be in the zone, or to enter the zone. There is another interesting thing called the group flow, the global flow. And when do you think that takes place? That is what happens when a bunch of people enter the zone together, where an optimal state of consciousness is shared and where they all feel at their best and perform the best. Something ringing. Is my watch.
You're taking us away from the flow experience.
Yeah. You see, I'm just calling your attention back. Be with me. The group flow. That is what happens when a bunch of people enter the zone together, where an optimal state of consciousness is shared and where they all feel at their best and perform the best. Here there is a team of people flowing towards the same goal, sharing the same passion. Imagine what that could be. To be able to experience that flow as a group. In fact, the intensity of the flow expands when that ecstatic moment is shared. When you share your happiness with others, that expands. It feels greater. So, what do you think the challenge is here? I ask you. Sounds good. We could all use some ecstasy and flow in our life. But in order to get there, we need to master some skill. So what do you think the challenge is here?
Discipline.
Discipline? Discipline.
Distractions,
Distraction.
like mental distraction.
Yeah. Well, I think our challenge is to exactly what we want. As human beings, we all want happiness. We all want to be there in the perfect moment. The challenge would be to be able to flow in this life without interruptions. The challenge would be how to experience flow in our day-to-day life. But the real challenge is how to flow, not just in areas of our expertise, but how to flow in life as a whole. To answer that, we need to start with, again, the fundamental question. What is the fundamental question?
What is the purpose of this life?
Purpose of life. Let's go higher. Who am I? The fundamental question. Who am I? A Japanese Buddhist philosopher would say, I am not nothing, but this moment in this flow of life. I am not nothing, but this moment in the flow of life. But this flow of life is not in my control. It is the life of the universe itself. The life of the universe flows in me, and I just flow with this life, and that is myself. It's beautiful. Lao Tzu says, life is a series of natural and spontaneous changes. Don't resist them. Life is a series of natural and spontaneous changes. Don't resist them. That only creates sorrow. Let reality be reality. Let things flow naturally forward in whatever way they like. Vedanta, as you well know, also talks about exactly the same thing, but with its own language. The soul is not composed of any materials. It is unity indivisible. Therefore, it must be indestructible. We read this in the Upanishads, in the Bhagavad Gita. It never changes. It's never subject to change. For the same reasons, it must also be without any beginning. So the soul is without any beginning and without end. We are eternal. What we call the soul in Vedanta is the eternal witness of the changes in nature. The soul, who we are, is the eternal witness of the changes in nature, absolute awareness, absolute existence. Nisargadatta Maharaj, I know if you ever heard of this, Avadutta, he says, pain is physical, but suffering is mental. Outside of the mind, there is no suffering. Pain is essential for the survival of the body, but none compels you to suffer. Suffering is entirely due to clinging or resisting. It is a sign of our unwillingness to move on, to flow with life. Clear, huh? Unwillingness to accept. Looks like in order to stop suffering, I need to stop resisting. What do we resist so much? The Greek Stoic philosopher Epictetus says, seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life. We need to stop resisting and start accepting life with its ups and downs and embrace whatever comes to our journey. The human condition is essentially the conflict. The human condition is essentially the conflict between the human need for control and the universe that provides little, if any, of it. Once we accept this and get into the flow of life, we are free and paradoxically able to get better results. Now, what is this acceptance of life that we don't seem to understand? Because we keep forgetting. Vivekananda says, good and evil are the obverse and reverse of the same coin. How can you have good without evil at the same time? What is meant by perfection? A perfect life is a contradiction in terms. Life itself is a state of continuous struggle between ourselves and everything outside. It is, for instance, a continuous struggle for food and air. If food or air fails, we die. It is clear that when this struggle ceases, there will be an end of life. So life is a struggle. This ebb and flow, this rising and falling, is in the world's very nature. It would be as logical to hold otherwise as to say that we may have life without death. This is complete nonsense, because the very idea of life implies death, and the very idea of pleasure implies pain. We really need to accept that life is a struggle, and we need to flow in that struggle peacefully. Matra sparshastu kaunteya, shitoshna sukha dukkadaha, agama paino nitya, Tam titikshasva bharata, feelings of heat and cold, pleasure and pain, says Sri Krishna, are caused by the contact of the senses with their objects. They come and they go, never lasting long. You must accept them. Bear with them patiently. Yam hinau vitayante purusham purusharshava samadukha sukham dhiram somritatvaya kalpate. A serene spirit accepts pleasure and pain with an even mind and is unmoved by either. That should be us. A serene spirit accepts pleasure and pain with an even mind and is unmoved by either. He is balanced in pain and pleasure and steadfast. He alone is worthy of immortality. In our daily life, we are constantly experiencing challenges of how to deal with this world that keeps changing. We keep encountering challenges as how to deal with our emotions, how to stay at peace in that state of calmness. What do people generally do? Where things cannot be changed, we put effort. And that begets frustration, suffering, pain, when things cannot be changed. What cannot be changed? Between the banks of pain and pleasure, says Nisargadatta, the river of life flows. It is only when the mind refuses to flow with life and gets stuck at the banks that it becomes a problem. The banks of pain and pleasure. We can't resist the fact. We cannot change the fact of this world. What is that fact? That cannot be changed. The changing nature of the world. The changing nature of the world. Do you understand? Including myself. Keeps changing. Life keeps flowing. And we just can't let it go. The changing nature of the world cannot be changed. Cannot. But the changing nature of the world, on the other hand, can be witnessed. The changing nature of the world cannot be changed. But the changing nature of the world can be witnessed. In Sanskrit, Shvatvikaraha, Shatvikaraha. Shatvikaraha. I am the Sakshi. I am the witness. I am the capital self. With that fact clear, in order to flow, we need to stay with the witness. We need to be in control of ourselves. And serenity, tranquility, and harmony are a must. Samatvam, says Shri Krishna. Calmness. Look at the stream, said the master. There are rocks in its way. Does it slam into them out of frustration? It simply flows over and around them and moves on. Be like the water, said the Master, and you will know what harmony is. The Mundaka Upanishad says, this Atman cannot be attained by one who is without strength or earnestness, or who is without knowledge, accompanied by renunciation. But if a wise man strives by means of these aids, knowledge and renunciation, his soul enters the abode of Brahman. To be able to deal with this world as it is, to accept it as it is, and at the same time not being affected by it, we really have to have full mastery, not just of one skill, but of ourselves as a whole. We really need to master ourselves. If we want to flow, we need to learn how to live in the present moment so that we can be oblivious of ourselves and simply flow in the here and now. What happens to us? We keep remembering the past and we are stuck in the future. Only a few of us try or struggle to stay and live the present moment and flow with life as it comes. Just like in the field of an artist, in order to experience the flow, in order to experience ecstasy, we need to get hold of our attention, and for this, concentration is required. What's the goal of all our spiritual practices? Call it bhakti, jnana, karma yoga, to get hold of our attention so that we can gather as much concentration as possible. We need a concentrated mind. In the field of life, we need to get hold of our attention and be alert to witness the changes but never belong to them. To witness the changes. A tremendous stream is flowing towards the ocean, carrying little bits of paper and straw, hidden and feathered on it. They may struggle to go back, but in the long run, they must flow down to the ocean. So you and I, and all nature, are like these little straws carried in the mad currents towards that ocean of life, perfection and God. We may struggle to go back or float against the current and play all sorts of pranks, but in the long run, we must go and join this great ocean of life and bliss. To live in the world and not to be of it is what we call true renunciation. What happens to us? We get hold of it. We cling to it. Oh, that little moment of happiness that I had. How can I get it back? Let go. It's hard, I know. But that's why we are here. To master ourselves. To train ourselves in this. The highest challenge we face in our life is to let go. To accept, to renounce, and most importantly, to surrender. True surrender flows from true renunciation. At the end of a long and arduous spiritual effort, when we have understood the true meaning of devotion and commitment towards our goal. In that surrender, there is no effort. A natural expression of joyful giving, filled with love, compassion, understanding, and wisdom. In surrendering to God, we surrender to life and let it flow. True surrender means we open ourselves to life's innumerable opportunities and challenges without conditions, preference, fear, or choice. It means we willingly offer ourselves to become an instrument in the hands of God and dedicate our life to His cause. That is true surrender. With that comes true freedom. In that surrender, we experience the flow of life, the opportunity to be in the present without the compulsion to seek things, to engage our pride or security. In that freedom, we do not acknowledge any authority outside us, but our own wisdom and intelligence rooted in the thoughts of the self. And we learn about life and existence in the choiceless awareness that naturally arises in us as a sign of our inner freedom from the desire to become or to have. Surrender is an act of devotion, and devotion is an expression of surrender. We become an autumn leaf in the winds of life. We let life happen. We let life flow. The shell doesn't resist the water. It moves along with it and still manages to remain in perfect shape. In fact, it has developed the perfect shape to roll along the waves. I saw this little shell swirling close to me. It was completely unbroken. I picked it up. How, I asked myself, was it possible for this fragile thing to go on churning safely through the waves when I myself was thrown back by them every time I tried to go forward? The answer was obvious. The seashell had not resisted the flow. Think of life's circumstances as waves over which you have no direct control. Meditate on the thought of riding them. Don't fight or resist them. You can never command the waves to be as you want them to be, or to go where you want them to go. Learn to flow with life, not against it, if you want to win through to freedom. Now, coming back to ourselves, our Vedantic point of view, Swami Vivekananda says, each soul is a circle. Each soul is a circle. The center is where the body is, and the activity is manifested there, our experience. You are omnipresent, though you have the consciousness of being concentrated in only one point. That point has taken up particles of matter and form then into a machine to express itself. That through which it expresses itself is called the body. But you are everywhere. If only we could go beyond our identity. The soul is a circle whose circumference is nowhere limitless, but whose center is in some body. Death is but a change of center. It is in this center that the individual flow happens. The individual flow happens. But it happens under certain circumstances, born of inspiration and deep interest. What if we find that inspiration in the highest goal of life, where the goal is to let go our ego, where the goal is to let our ego die and flow with life itself? This was the attempt of the ancient rishis, seers of the truth from the Upanishads. When experiencing the state of Brahman as a flow, the one without a second, they experienced serenity and calmness. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, therefore, he knows it as such, having become calm, self-controlled, withdrawn, patient, and collected, sees the self in his own self, sees all in the self. This is the word of Brahman. In flow, there is a sense of oneness with the universe. These rishis also experienced clarity. The Kena Upanishad says, when if, meaning Brahman, is known through every conscious state, it is rightly known, and one attains eternal life thereby. These rishis also experienced ecstasy, the sense of being outside this reality, where the experience was what we call purnatvam, or sense of being fulfilled with supreme joy. Maybe the similar joy we experience when we do the things we love. The Taittiriya Upanishad says, having performed penance, he, the character is Bhrigu, understood that perfect bliss was Brahman. Perfect bliss was Brahman. For it is from that bliss that these beings are born. And at last, the Mundaka Upanishad says, as flowing rivers disappear in the sea, losing their names and forms, so a wise man, freed from name and form, nama rupa, attains the Purusha, who is greater than the great. It's all about expansion and being connected with our higher self. Vivekananda says, expansion is life and contraction is death. We are here to expand, to go beyond this name and form, our identity. And the only way to expand is to embrace our higher nature, to start living from the self with the help of God, by trusting the flow in the Gita we find Krishna says, I am the self, O Udakesha, existent in the heart of all beings. I am the beginning, the middle, and also the end of all beings. And whatsoever is the seed of all beings, that also am I. O Arjuna, there is no being, whether moving or unmoving, that can exist without me. Now, if the soul is a circle whose circumference is nowhere, but whose center is in somebody, I ask you, what do you think God is? God is a circle whose circumference is nowhere and whose center is everywhere. Whose center is everywhere. When we can get out of this limited center of body, we shall realize God, our true self. The Bhagavad Gita says again in chapter number 12, surrender, depend on me, take my support. Fix your mind on me only, place thy intellect in me. Thou shalt no doubt live in me hereafter. If thou art unable to fix thy mind steadily on me, then by practice, by training, by discipline, you should seek me and reach me. That's what we are trying to do here. Since we are unable to steadily fix our mind on Him, guess what we need to do? We need to master this discipline. That which make us free and flow with Him. Thus it is spoken of in our scriptures that remembering is as good as seeing. Krishna says, remember me. Fix your mind on me. This remembrance, when exalted, assumes the same form as seeing. You remember Sri Ramakrishna, when he was asked, have you seen God? He said, yes, I can see Him more intensely. I can see you. I see Him. God is a circle whose circumference is nowhere and whose center is everywhere. Every point in that circle is living, conscious, active, and equally working. But if the center is everywhere, and this is the point, if the center is everywhere, it must be where I am, here and now. It must be. Every point in this sphere, which is God, is thus a bubbling forth of the infinite flow of life. Let us find that flow in our life. Then only we can experience the magic in our life. Then only we can tune with the magic of being. Then only we can tune with the magic of living in God, working for that amazing center that is everywhere. When we put ourselves in the hands of God, when we offer ourselves to God, we let Him do. We become mere instruments in His hands, and we are okay with that because that fulfills us. Then we know we can't see the whole picture, but we are sure, we have the certainty that things happen for a reason. for our own good. In doing this, we forget ourselves. That's the secret of a spiritual life. The magic we experience in our life only happens when we can connect with the higher flow, to live a life in a spontaneity where there is no future, where there is no past, where you are constantly flowing because life itself is a flow. And maybe what we call God is that eternal flow. Thank you.
So we'd like to thank Swami Dhyanyogananda from giving a talk on the flow of life. I don't know how many are aware, Swami, I don't even know, you joined in which center?
Buenos Aires, Argentina.
He joined in the Buenos Aires, Argentina center, and then from there he went to India, right? So India, he was in our seminary for 2 years, and then he was also in the Vivekananda University, the one where Swami Atmapriyananda had come. So he was there at the Vivekananda University working with Swami Atmapriyananda for many years. And now he is in Trabuco. And he's the one that's sort of the resident monk in charge of the Trabuco Center there. If you have not gone to Trabuco, it's in Irvine. It is a beautiful place. It's actually, I don't know how many, 40 acres is what we own, but actually, what's the total acreage?
There were 300 acres. We
300
donated, yeah, 200.
300 acres is the actual property. And the shrine, how many have been into the Trabuco Shrine? So if you go to, it's a dome, and in the dome it's dark, completely dark, and in the darkness you'll find in the midst there's a light. That light is showing the image of Ramakrishna, and it's a very powerful place to meditate. So if you haven't been there, you should go, because it's also what a traditional monastery does look like. And for those that are eager to take a walk, there is a mile-long shrine trail where they commemorate the different shrines of different religions. It's a beautiful place. It's very, very popular in Trabuco. They get more people in their lectures than any of our other centers, maybe in the United States, not sure, but very
That's what
popular.
people say.
Okay. So one Swami Masananji, called it the Mayavati of the USA, meaning Mayavati is the Himalayas. It's the soothing peace of the Himalayas is in Trabuco. Two things. One is that we'll be having a Gita class again at 6:15 on Tuesdays. We have Arati at 5 o'clock. And second is next week, Sunday, we will be celebrating Swami Vivekananda's birthday. We have a special pujari, Swami Bhajanananda from Kali Mandir, is going to be coming down, and he's going to be conducting the puja. And his pujas are they're very beautiful to watch. We'll also have our San Diego choir with the music. I think Kali Mandir is also going to bring music. It's going to be a festival of music. And after that, Swami Bhajananji is going to give a talk on Swami Vivekananda. This is the 125th anniversary of Vivekananda coming to the United States and giving his talk in the Parliament of Religion, where he said, "Sisters and Brothers of America." So he's going to be commemorating that talk, Swamiji's Parliament of Religion, with a presentation of his own. And he says he's been working on this a long time. So it's going to be really fun. So I encourage everybody to come. The puja begins at 10 o'clock. It goes till about 12 o'clock, where we have flower offerings, if you'd like to offer flowers. Then at 12:15, approximately, Swami Bhajananji will give his talk. And it'll end up at about 1 o'clock to 1:15, where we have prasad for everybody. So we encourage everybody to come. Again, next Sunday at 10 a.m. I think that's it. Swami, would you like to give it?
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. That outer world is Purna, full of divine consciousness. This inner world is also Purna, full of divine consciousness. From Purna comes Purna. From fullness of divine consciousness, the world is manifested, taking Purna from Purna. Purna indeed remains, because divine consciousness is non-dual and infinite. Om, peace, peace, peace. Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj.